All right. So hi, everyone. Again, this is the 2026-2027 CY95 Exploring Digital Arts curriculum rollout. So we're going to go over what this new course looks like and then kind of talk about the standards and objectives and kind of give you a general overview of the course, and then of course, have plenty of time to answer any questions you might have, because this is a brand new course and we'll talk about that. So there might be some questions. So my name is Mike Renee. I'm a computer science, IT, and tech ed consultant here at DPI in Raleigh, and I've been in this position almost 2 years now. So I see some familiar faces in the webinar. Deb and I used to teach together. So in good old Mendenhall Middle School in Guilford County Schools. So it's exciting to see some folks here that I recognize, and we're really excited about this course. It's going to be, I think, a really good option for a lot of middle schools to introduce digital arts and kind of a lot of the emerging technologies that are happening and kind of changing our world. So we'll talk a lot about that. So again, welcome. Just some housekeeping. We are recording this, and the recording will be posted both to the Moodle in our new resource hub that I'll talk about, and then we'll email this out as well, both the presentation and also the recording. So we'll capture any questions that are asked during the recording. If you have questions, we're a tiny group here, so you can just put questions in the chat. I have the chat open kind of on the side, so I'm happy to answer questions as we go. And also, we can wait till the end as well, but I have no problem if, as we're going here, if you have a question, excuse me, feel free to stop me and I'll answer it, kind of right where we're at. Yeah, and as Karen said as well, this will be posted on our YouTube channel. If you didn't know, DPI has a YouTube channel. We've had it for a long time. CTE really hasn't used it a whole lot, but we're trying to get some more views on it and get it out there. So we'll put it on the NC DPI YouTube channel as well. Excuse me. So let's start with course outcomes. So this is a kind of a new thing. If you haven't seen a new DPI CTE course this year, we're adding course outcomes to all new courses. So this goes for any course that's rolling out for next school year or any beyond. So if this is the first time you're seeing it, don't feel like, oh gosh, I've missed something, because this is brand new. We did start rolling out course outcomes to some of the courses that rolled out this year, kind of in a pilot phase, but starting at summer conference and then going into next school year, you're going to be seeing course outcomes with any new course or any course that's being updated. So if we're updating a course, we're going to add outcomes. So what are outcomes? Put real simple, they're just student-friendly language. I also like to say parent-friendly. So student and parent-friendly language that tells students or parents what they'll learn in the course. We obviously have standards and objectives, and this course does as well. But as educators, we often know that sometimes that language can be, full of Bloom's revised taxonomy and kind of a lot of education speak, and sometimes that can confuse or turn off, middle school or high school students to a course, parents as well, particularly in middle school, right? And so we kind of came up with this idea. This is obviously not our idea. This is kind of a research-backed method of, let's kind of design a course from the kind of backwards almost, if you think about it. So let's start with what we think students should learn, and then from there develop our unpacked content, our essential questions, our standards, and kind of go that direction. So it's kind of a little bit different than courses have been traditionally developed, but I think it makes a lot of sense, because also when we develop these course outcomes, we obviously talk to teachers that are in the field, and we have Brian here with us today, and I'll introduce him here in a minute. But we also talk to lots of industry folks too, people in industry that are saying, what are the kind of skills that you need from our students? And so we derive those outcomes based on that and kind of those conversations. And then from that, we kind of develop the course. So you can see the outcomes for this course. I won't read them, but they're kind of probably what you thought. One of the ones I really like, well, they're all good, but I think particularly the second one, this course really gets into, kind of talking about and having the kids discuss, how digital arts and digital media are influencing, their life. As we know as educators, or if you're a parent, right, these kids are inundated with digital media everywhere they go. So so, there might not be another course where they really get to have some of those discussions. So we're really excited that this course kind of opens up that opportunity, especially at the middle school level when kids, as we know, as middle school educators, they have some interesting questions sometimes. But often those questions, are really legitimate because they really want to know, like, how does this stuff work and why do people, how do social influencers work and that type of thing. So this course is, and you're going to hear this term a lot in the webinar today, is designed to be flexible. If you want to have those conversations and if the teacher feels comfortable having those conversations with the kids, you certainly can do that. But we've also made it, where you can kind of get, talk about it, but then you can kind of move on to more, of the making and doing type of thing. So we've really thought about keeping this course as broad and open as possible to really leave room for students to have some of these conversations, but also learn some real skills that they can transfer in to high school if they're going to take some of the Adobe courses, the 3D modeling and animation or game design courses. Obviously, every middle school, high school pathway looks different across the state. So we tried to be really flexible and open about how we designed this course to accommodate that. And I kind of mentioned at the outset, but this course is brand new. It was an LCO, a local course option that Brian, that's on the call here, was teaching in Dare County. And he's been teaching it for a couple of years, and he's done a really good job with it and done some amazing work with the students. So we decided from the state level, like, why don't we try to share this more broadly? And so we've introduced this course for a variety of reasons, but one, because it is very topical, and Brian has done an amazing job of being the consultant or being the teacher, advisor on this, and really helping us kind of wrap our head around what does it look like to teach digital media in this era, right? Because things change so fast, and again, talking about that flexibility, we really designed this course to be flexible, and we'll talk more about that as when we get into some of the specifics. But because this changes all the time, right? I mean, honestly, some of this stuff will probably change by the time you bring it up next year in August or September or October, right? So we're mindful of that, and we wanted to try to be as flexible as possible for you. So when you're teaching it to the students, you have a lot of kind of room to put your own spin on it. So here are the standards. There are 5. I broke them down into 2 slides. I know they're kind of small there, but if you look at the weights, if you look at standard 3, that's about 50%, 45% of the course is the students actually making things in 2D, 3D, video design, audio production, podcasting, that type of thing. This course, and we'll talk about it, it doesn't have a vendor or it doesn't have a prescribed curriculum. So there's no one website you're going to go to log in and get your curriculum and get your slideshows and that type of thing. We're going to be providing a lot of those resources, and other teachers will in our Moodle/resource hub that I'll talk about here in a minute. So again, that's that kind of that broad design where we try to keep this as open as possible. But you'll notice there, standard 3, you'll have the kind of the flexibility to do 2D design, 3D design, and we'll give you in the curriculum guide that you'll see here in a minute, we give you suggestions and resources that you can use, but you're certainly not limited to those. You might have a tool or that you're familiar with or you're more comfortable with that certainly that you could use that accomplishes the same task. But we certainly do provide some suggestions as well. And then it's the first standard there, just kind of talking about the influence of digital media. The second standard gets into AI, in kind of how generative AI is kind of taking over the world in so many ways, for good or bad, right? And you can kind of have those conversations with your students. They're obviously, and I'm sure you've already had these discussions with your students, they have a lot of opinions on it. I think it's fascinating. You look at college students, obviously they're different age than middle school students, but if you've been paying attention to the news, some of these college graduation speeches where the speaker will mention the world of AI, and the college students, the graduates, are booing, right? So I mean, I think it's interesting that we're in this weird time period where things are shifting so fast, and you have all these kind of different opinions on what digital media and AI is doing to both students' kind of personal lives, but also, most important for us, the world of work, right? How they're going to enter the world, and what are job and career opportunities going to look like. So we were mindful of that when we designed this course as well. So there's some space in the course to kind of dive into that a little bit, which I think is very relevant and very important. There may be some mandates coming from the General Assembly if you're following that kind of that process as well. We're not announcing anything today, but the General Assembly is looking at passing some guidance or some rules, I should say, policy that DPI will have to follow. Right, at DPI we don't make policy, we follow it when the lawmakers make policy, and they're talking about passing some legislation that looks at digital media, social media, generative AI, and kind of what that looks like. So we're excited because we're already doing that, right? We're on top of that, and so I think that's important. That again, I think whether it's mandated or not, I think it's important that students and teachers are having these conversations. So we built that into the standards, and then standard 4 and 5 in there. Of course, we're going to talk about careers because that's important. Again, it's a middle school course, so it's kind of just a survey, but we're looking at what kind of careers are available in digital media, and then the last standard really looks at kind of portfolios and that type of thing. Both Brian and I are big believers in portfolios, and as kids get into high school, especially if they're going to go, the digital arts route, portfolios are a big part of what students produce. Producing a body of work and making a portfolio out of it. So you can kind of see those standards there. But then most importantly for this course is the curriculum guide. So Brian and I spent months and months and months working on this, lots of back and forth, lots of meetings, lots of conversations about, how to design this correctly. We, of course, have a standard here at DPI that every curriculum guide has. And so in the curriculum guide, you're going to find course outcomes that we just talked about. You're going to find unpacked content. You're going to find essential questions, teacher briefs that kind of give a general overview about what the standard and objective is covering. Key terms, right? Vocabulary is super important, as we all know in middle school, and particularly when you're talking about technology, we tend to have a lot of vocabulary. As CTE teachers, we know that we're also supposed to be language arts teachers, right? It's not just the language arts job to teach language arts. It's everybody's job to help kids understand how to read and write. And so having some domain-specific content, specific terms, we thought was really important. So those are built into the curriculum guide as well. We'll have we do have sample instructional activities. So again, these are samples. They're not required. They're just kind of general ideas of here's something you could try and take it and tweak it, do what you want with it, or you can take it kind of word from word the way we've designed it. But they're there to kind of guide you and to give you some suggestions. And then we'll have instructional resources as well. So those could be videos, podcasts, web links, lots of different, there's a great tutorial series that goes over how generative AI works, and we've included that in the curriculum guide. So just a lot of resources that you'll be able to use in the classroom. But again, there is no specific vendor or platform that we'll talk about here in a second. In fact, let me go to that slide now. There's no specific vendor or platform for this course. So that means there's no specific tool that you have to use. You don't have to use Adobe Photoshop. In fact, I would probably recommend against it at the middle school level. I guess you could if you have access to it, but most middle schools don't, and we're mindful of that. You don't have to use a professional video platform. You can if you have access to it, but it's not a requirement. And so we really were intentional to make this course as platform and vendor neutral as possible. That it has good things and bad sides, right? It's good because it gives you flexibility, but it also can be a little frustrating, especially to a new teacher that's kind of like, hey, just tell me what to use, right? And so we kind of understand that there's a balance there of both those things. So we certainly provide resources and links in the curriculum guide. If you have no idea where to start, those are in the curriculum guide, but they're not required. You can kind of use your own judgment about what you think is going to be best. All the tools that we picked as of at least May, or I should say, well, I guess May, June, we developed this in May. But as of right now, the tools are free. But as educators, we all know a lot of times these tools are free one day, and then you log in the next day, and they've gone to a pay model, right? And I think we all kind of have been there, done that, understand that. And they're also 99.9% web-based, right? So we realize lots of middle schools are going to be using Chromebooks. You're not going to be able to install software. Even if you are on a Windows PC, you probably still can't install software. So we tried to make everything, and I think we did when I was testing everything, I believe 100%, if not 99.9% of everything is web-based. So you just need a web browser to access any of the tools. And then I mentioned it here earlier, but this is a good time. If you're not aware, DPI CTE is switching over from Moodle. Thank goodness. We are finally retiring Moodle after decades, literally. And we are moving to Canvas, but we're calling that resource, instead of Moodle, we're now calling it the North Carolina CTE Resource Hub, or the CTE Resource Hub. So you'll hear that term a lot starting at summer conference. Some of you might have already started to hear it, but you'll certainly hear it at summer conference. And as we go into the 26-27 school year, you're going to hear that more. Moodle will be retiring August 1st. So there'll be about a month overlap, and then the Resource Hub will go live in about a month, in July 1st. So we'll have about a month where you'll be able to access both. But as we speak, the DPI team is moving everything over from Moodle to this new Resource Hub, which is in Canvas. And we're doing that right now. So everything will be moved over. But it will be a new process for teachers. One of the nice things is the Canvas shell is built into NC Ed Cloud, so it won't be a separate login anymore. That's one of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons I think teachers don't access the Moodle, but one of the main reasons is it's just another login, right? And people forget their logins, and you got to reset your password, yada, yada, yada. Now that it's built into NC Ed Cloud, most educators are pretty comfortable going to NC Ed Cloud because that's kind of where everything else is. So you'll be able to access the Resource Hub through your Ed Cloud account, and it'll all be under one login, and you'll be able to go there and get all the resources, including this curriculum guide, as well as additional resources. So I really want to emphasize this. The curriculum guide is kind of a static document, right? The course is in pilot, which means we can update it from year to year, but the document is not really going to be updated unless there's major things, right, in terms of links and stuff. What will be updated weekly, monthly, sometimes maybe even daily, especially at the beginning, will be the Resource Hub. So there'll be a specific page in the Resource Hub. You'll go to middle grades and you'll see CY95 Exploring Digital Arts, and the consultant will add resources. Brian will be, helping us with that, but so won't other teachers around the state that are teaching this course to say, hey, I found this resource. You should try it for objective, 3.02 or 3.03 or whatever it is. So in that regards, it'll be exactly like Moodle. We think it's going to be much more easy to have conversations. Moodle is just outdated, let's be honest. It was meant for kind of a different era. And not that Canvas is, 100% the best thing ever, but I think it is better. And the conversation, kind of the way you can have discussions are better in Moodle. So we're hoping that will encourage teachers to have more discussions around their courses. And again, this is for every CTE course. So not just this course, every middle school and high school CTE course will now be in this Resource Hub. And that's where educators will go to get their curriculum guides and other resources and that type of thing. So again, that goes live July 1st, and then Moodle will be retired officially the 1st of August. So you have, over the summer to kind of do the transition. Again, you don't have to do anything, but we will be transitioning all the documents and resources that are in Moodle, as well as lots more stuff. That's what we're also excited about. The new Resource Hub is going to have a lot more than Moodle had, which we're excited about that as well. Okay. So let's see. So platform neutral, like I said, there is no curriculum specific vendor to get the curriculum. There's no specific website you have to go to get the tools. It's all kind of laid out in the curriculum guide. One of the things that Brian and I, talked a lot about and is important to us here at DPI is CTO integration. So this is a great course to integrate into a CTSO. We highly encourage to have any CTO. We tend to align closest to TSA, although we have alignment with other courses as well. But in CSIT and computer science, IT, and tech ed, we match kind of with some things that Skills does as well. But TSA is kind of where we feel like is our nicest fit. And so Brian and I looked at all the regional, state, and national competitions that TSA puts on. And we picked kind of the 5 that we felt matched the best. So you can see there STEM animation, digital photography, audio podcasting, mass media, and promotional, marketing. So again, CTSOs are designed to be intracurricular, not extra, right? So you could teach this course and at the same time prepare students for TSA competitions, whether that's at the regional, state, or national level. So if you're interested in that, that's something that I can definitely help you with, or other consultants at DPI. It's a little beyond the scope of this presentation, but if you're like, hey, I would really like to integrate TSA into this course, reach out to us, and my contact information will be at the end, and we'll happy to set up a separate meeting and go over how to help you do that. The TSA advisor for the state of North Carolina is Dr. Jerry Ann Taylor out of App State, and she's really excited about the growth in our middle school TSA. This year at States, we had the most middle school teams ever. In fact, the middle school program is growing almost twice as fast as the high school program. So we're really excited about that. The other thing that's nice about TSA is the middle school portion is really well supported. A lot of the other CTSOs are starting to get into the middle school space, but haven't always been there. But TSA has always put a lot of emphasis on starting at middle school and then kind of building that pathway into high school. So we're really excited that this course fits nicely into what TSA is doing as well. So again, some just other kind of facts here about the course. It is in pilot status. That basically is just a fancy way of saying that we can make changes from it year to year without having to go back to the State Board of Education to get approval. Once a course goes standard and the State Board approves the course, then we can't touch it for several years, right? So the nice thing about pilot status is we can make some adjustments. I think Brian and I did a really good job, but I think Brian will admit as well, we're not perfect. We might have missed some things. And so in the pilot year, and the course will definitely be in pilot for 1 year. It could possibly be in pilot for a second. We'll kind of make that determination towards the end of next school year. But certainly at this first year, we're looking for feedback. And so we'll have check-ins, and those will be posted on the Resource Hub. I believe the first one will probably be in October of next school year. And we'll have several throughout the school year where you'll be able to meet just like we are now virtually and give your opinions, share resources, give us suggestions about how we can make the course better, things we should add, things maybe we should take away, that type of thing. So we really do want teacher feedback. So please tell your colleagues, if you know of other people that are going to be teaching this, when a course is in pilot, this is really your opportunity to make some adjustments, because once it goes out of pilot, there's not a lot we can do until, we kind of have to look at it again, in 2 or 3 years. A course like this too, right? As I mentioned at the outset, where things are changing so fast, we want to make sure that, we can be flexible. So as things change, as we know, especially with AI, the way the tools work today, they're going to work very different in a couple of weeks, and let alone a couple of months or a couple of years, right? And so we want to be as flexible as possible with a course like this. It is a middle school course, so the proof of learning is local, right? So it's up to your district to decide how you want to assess it. And this course does satisfy the middle grades computer science offering requirement. So this is a middle school course. It's not a high school course. It can't be taught at the high school level, but it can be taught at middle school. And if you're not aware of the legislation, it does go into effect officially next school year, 26-27. As far as we know, there's no changes, there's no exemptions, there's no way to get out of it. The General Assembly could change that rule. Probably not likely, but certainly they're in session now. So pay attention to what they do, because they're the ones that make that decision. But we're assuming nothing's going to change. So if you didn't know the legislation, it says every middle school has to offer a computer science course. This course, CY95, counts as a computer science course. So if you offer it, your school is meeting that legislative requirement. Okay. Just a couple more things. I want to thank Brian. I said I was going to do that earlier, but now's a great time. Brian, if you want to come off the mic, you can, and just say hi. Brian works in Dare County Schools, and he was teaching this course as an LCO, a local course option, for several years. And Karen McPherson, who's our CSIT section chief, she went out and visited Brian and was so impressed in what he's doing. She's like, hey, we need to get Brian to help us make this a statewide course. And so that's what we did over this past school year. So Brian, do you want to add anything or just introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Brian Wayner, like, you filled it in pretty good. Enjoyed working it. It was my first time ever doing anything like this, and it really helped me improve my own teaching. But I was excited to share this, and any of you guys that are in the chat that have watched this have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I think it's good. I know it's not perfect, and I look forward to working with DPI and everybody else that does this class to make it even better. But I do feel like it's one of the most important classes, like Mike did a great job to explain to everybody today. So I'm looking forward to see what the future of this class holds. So thanks again, Mike, for doing everything, and thanks for letting me speak today.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Brian. And Brian will be at summer conference. If I don't know if anyone in the audience is coming, but he will be at summer conference talking more about this course. So that'll be another opportunity to ask questions if you're coming to the CTE summer conference. But if not, if you can't make it or you don't plan on attending, remember that resource hub will be there for you to have the curriculum guide, to have the resources, to have any questions. And of course, we're always here as well. And so speaking of that, this course, although Brian and I developed it, I'm going to be actually handing this course over to Natalie Holbert. So Natalie is one of my colleagues here at DPI. She's a curriculum consultant and she'll be responsible starting in July with this course. So if you have any questions, she'll be the person that you'll kind of be your direct contact. Of course, you can always reach out to me. My contact will be in the end, and I'll put we have a general email to put in there that I can share with you as well. So any of us on the team can help you. We're not going to turn you away because we're like, oh, that's not my course. No, of course not. We will help you in any way we can. But Natalie will be kind of the person that will be responsible for doing those check-ins, kind of driving a lot of the progress as we move forward. And Natalie's great. She's been here at DPI several years and has a wealth of knowledge on courses such as this. So we're excited that she'll be on board to help to work through this. Okay, so that's really all I have. Like I said, I'll be happy to stick around and answer any questions. I will put my contact information there at the end, so feel free to reach out to me. And I will also put in the chat our kind of general email. So if you ever have any questions about this course or any course, we have a email, just CSIT, so Computer Science, IT, and Technology at dpi.nc.gov, and that'll go to all of the members of our team, and then it'll get forwarded to the appropriate person that can answer your question. And we kind of pride ourselves on having a 24-hour business hour response. So if you have a question about this course or any other course, you can reach out to me, Natalie, or you can always send it to that CSIT email, and it'll go to the whole team, and whoever's responsible will get on it as quickly as possible. But just to wrap up, we're really excited about this course. I think it'll, be a nice gateway for a lot of students as they get into high school, whether they want to do the Adobe kind of pathway, whether they want to do 3D modeling and game design, maybe they want to do interior design. It kind of touches on a lot of different areas. So we're really excited, as well as that piece about generative AI and kind of, as we know, kids have lots of opinions about AI, and so it really gives them kind of a safe space to have some of those conversations about what they feel about it, and how it's affecting the world of work that they're entering in, because as we all know, it's changing our personal lives, but it's certainly changing the professional business world as well. And so I think the more we can have these conversations with our young people, we're doing our job to try to help them make sense of what's coming next, because it's crazy how fast things are changing. So with that, I'll stop there, and I'll stop the recording. But like I said, I'll answer any questions that anybody has. Otherwise, feel free to go. These slides and recording will be shared on the resource hub, and I have everyone's email, so I'll shoot it out through email as well. And you'll be able to access the curriculum guide and all the resources through the hub in Moodle as well. Okay.
Mike, just curious.
Yeah.
Of course, our schedules are pretty much set for next year already.
Yeah.
But I came on because I wanted to hear if it's possible, like, to take bits and pieces maybe and introduce it maybe in a 7th grade to see the take, because like I do still the science discoveries and the game animation and game design or whatever it is in that.
Yeah. Right.
And I always lose kids when I get into that. They just don't do it. But I have so many fantastic artists in my room. They doodle, that's what they want to do. They doodle, they make their own, cartoon and all this kind of stuff. So as I was kind of thinking about it, I was like, well, it would be nice to have an option for these that just aren't coding, that maybe I could get them to go along this path. And if they like it, maybe I could offer it to 8th grade, the next year, and give them the credit for it.
That's a good point. There isn't a lot of, or really any kind of quote unquote coding. I mean, Tinkercad is one of the resources that we provide. And in Tinkercad, if you've never played in there, it's drag and drop 3D modeling, but you can also use code to build 3D models, but you don't have to do that, right? You can do the drag and drop piece. So yeah, the code, there's really no, beyond that, there's really no coding. Again, if you're into coding or your students are, there'll probably be ways to integrate it, but it's not really, I think that's important to us as well, because when we hear computer science, everybody immediately thinks coding, right? But computer science is so much more broad than just coding. Coding's important, don't get me wrong. It's part of computer science, but the computer science is much broader in that. And so one of the reasons I like this course is because it shows students, hey, there's other things that can be in computer science. Now, we use that definition a little loosely, I'll be honest, right? If you were talking to a college professor about what computer science is, they would say, well, I don't think this course, but again, we're teaching middle school and high school kids here, right? So I think we're pretty excited that this gives students an opportunity to have some of those conversations, and it's not just typing, writing code all day. Some kids love that, other kids don't. So
so that's what I was hoping I could use this kind of as a second, get that differentiation in for those that are just struggling with that, give them another outlet, to try something else.
Absolutely,
that they might like.
That's a good point.
Deborah, I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think that's where this class kind of came from, was I was doing some computer science, but I didn't have the higher kids in here. So my CDC came to me with this course and she said, what do you think you could do with this without the coding? It's almost the same thing that you're saying. I had almost the same conversation 3 years ago, and it's been a perfect fit. And now I'm moving into CS10 and they want me to move away from this class, but I'm like, look, I've just made this class awesome. Let me teach it. So I've been teaching it for 8th grade the last 2 years, and I'm going to teach it in 7th next year just to try it. I'm not sure. And Mike seems to think we can do it in 6th grade if we need to too. So I'm going to take parts of it, kind of like what you're saying, and integrate it into my 6th grade curriculum. But I'd be curious to see how your journey goes too, because I think there's a lot of good pieces in here that you could use in that traditional class.
Yeah. Sometimes I just have to find other things because they just lose interest so fast in whatever unit or lessons you're doing. They just, first couple lessons, they're good. But after that, like, oh, we got to do this some more.
And anytime they get up against a wall, then they just want to quit. And you have some of those kids that'll push through, but a lot of them just throw their hands up, and it just, and so that I hear myself, what I was saying 3 years ago, going, I was thinking about leaving CTE because I was so frustrated with it and I just couldn't get through to the kids. But the last 2 years, the kids have thoroughly enjoyed this class, and we take a lot of current events. Mike, I like how you introduced that AI thing. I was like, if I was teaching kids this week, except for EOGs and EOCs, I would have definitely shown some graduation speeches in here.
Right.
Not all of them, because there was some very bad language in there, but
that's what I heard. The booing on one of those, that kind of hit national news or something. The kids were booing it. That's what my kids want to do. You can ask them a simple question and they go AI the answer. Like, no, this is your feedback, your reflection. What are you? And they have to go get it off of AI. Like, I don't know it.
No, AI it's probably one of the biggest shifts in our thinking about how we educate kids, I think, in a long time, maybe in all of our lives. I mean, it's such a huge shift. Okay. That was a great question. Thank you so much.
Well, great. Well, I appreciate y'all's time. And I look forward to looking over that stuff and seeing how I can integrate it next year.
All right. Well, thank you for attending, everybody. I appreciate it. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording here.
Thanks.
All right.
I thought you